We're in the new Physics 271 lab, and we've set up the experiments, first 5 experiments for the first review. And this is just a quick video to remind you what these experiments look like. So down here on the end, of course, the order in the actual room may be different. You can see you've got the setup for experiment number 1, which is electric and magnetic fields. There were 2 parts to the experiment. In the first part, you use this current board to measure the voltage around some different shaped electrodes. There are these parallel plate and then 2-point dipole sources. That was part of the lab, and then another part of the lab involved using this magnetic field sensor, which you can take out of this apparatus to measure the Earth's magnetic field, and also in the last part of the lab, you measured the magnetic field in a solenoid coil, again using that magnetic field sensor. And some other parts of this experiment here, you also had this voltage supply that you used to drive the current board. And you can see that there's a number of wires that you're going to need for this setup. Next experiment, experiment 2, was the multimeter and oscilloscope. And this involved making some measurements with the 4-channel scope and using the multimeter to measure voltages, currents, and resistance. And again, there's only a few different parts for this. The RC board, again, you'll need this voltage current supply, and you'll be doing things like hooking up different resistors and measuring them with the multimeter. Here's the next experiment, experiment number 3, which was about resistors and capacitors. You'll need, again, the RC board and a sheet of values on that board, 3-channel amplifier for measuring, say, the voltage across resistances and capacitors, 4-channel scope. You also had a large capacitor and a switch here, which you could hook up to measure the charging and discharging. And again, you use the voltage supply to drive the circuits. And you also used on the scope, remember there's that wave generator, which has an output right here on the end. You can use that for driving your RC circuits with a sine wave. Next experiment, let's see, is down here. This experiment number 4 was on Faraday's law and inductors, and there were several different parts to this experiment, at least 2 main parts, or 3 main parts actually. In one part, you had a motor hooked to a coil, and that coil could turn or move very rapidly, between the poles of a magnet, which you can see here. You control the speed of that coil using the motor controller. And the faster the motor turned, the faster the coil turned, the higher the voltage was that's produced by that coil. Another part of the experiment, you used these 2 inductors to build a transformer. One coil can go inside of the other one. You drive one side, the primary, and look at the voltage across the other side, the secondary, and you can see the voltage step up, provided the frequency is high enough. And again, you'll need that resistor capacitor board. In another part of the experiment, we looked at the charging or discharging of an inductor, and for that you had to use a large coil and the X-Tech power supply. And for most of these measurements, or some of these measurements, you were using the scope to monitor, say, the voltage across both sides of the transformer, or you were using the Logger Pro voltage leads to measure, say, the voltage across the inductor as it was discharged. So there was a few parts to this experiment. It was one of the more complicated ones. Last experiment in the first half of the course is experiment number 5, which is on resonance in LRC circuits. And you should have done this, I guess, probably the week before. It was somewhat complicated to wire up. You had a large inductor, and again, you used the 1 nanofarad capacitor on this board, which is right here, across these pins, and a 1 k ohm resistor. And those were connected in series. You monitored the voltage or amplified the voltage across the LR and C using the 3-channel amplifier, inputs on top, outputs on bottom. Each output channel was sent to one of the channels of the oscilloscope, and you could also monitor the drive which was applied, which you're using the wave generator output there to do that. This involved, a template which was let you acquire all 4 channels of voltage and phase. And the main concept here again was that LRC had a resonance and a certain Q, which actually depends on the resistance of the circuit. So that's a very quick reminder of what the different parts are of these 5 labs you did in the first half of the course. And in the review, you'll have a series of questions that you'll need to answer about each one of them. And of course, the review is intended to mimic what the actual culminating lab will be, which will be in the following week. So make sure you answer all the review questions and go through the exercises, see what's there. Have any questions, ask your TA. Good luck.